Alright, we're going to have a brief little lecture on initiating an employment campaign. You'll bear with me here just one second. In talking a little bit about the employment campaign, it's essentially talking about a four-step process. And with trait and factor theory that we focus on within this class, to a certain extent in the first half of the class, we go into pretty much great detail about assessing the self. In terms of employment campaign, really launching this effort in getting yourself employed, your campaign to be employed. Perhaps in this segment we really want to focus on the other parts of the employment campaign rather than just assessing self, which is what we as people and also as counselors tend to do, assessing the self. We're going to kind of look beyond that. So we want to talk about assessing positions, getting a feel for what's wanted, looking at employers, what might be wanted out of an employer, and also the job market, so that you or your client, I guess, can really get a sense of whether or not what it is that they want is employable, and that there will be jobs out there for them when they are ready. So the first, in terms of knowing the position, assessing the position, some things that you want to kind of push yourself or push your client to investigate is the very first thing is just what's the job description of what's being advertised or what's being offered. What's the actual terminology of what's required and expected. Some other things that they want to know, or you might want to know, the number of positions that, like the ones that is available, how many of those are usually filled. Sometimes things get advertised and you never quite know if it's people going through the motions, if they usually hire internally. You just never know what kind of goes on behind the scenes. So it might help to have a little research in knowing how many times positions like this actually gets filled with a particular organization. You might want to know how it became available, a little bit of the history. If you happen to notice that there are jobs or a specific job that tends to have a high turnover rate, like there's somebody new in that position every 1 to 2 years, then that could be a little bit indicative of a problem related to the position or the organization. Kind of going along with job description, you also perhaps want to know desired qualifications, responsibilities. Those are kind of the basics. Salary range, which is what people tend to be interested in quite a bit. And really anything else that the employer might be looking for, kind of an open-ended effort, open-ended question to know what the employer might be looking for. And speaking of the employer, a person who is really applying this employment campaign strategy will want to know and do a little research on the employer for which they might work. So could do some basic research on the products that are created by this employer or the services that are provided by the employer. Might also want to gather some information on the size and the growth of the organization. If it tends to be an organization that is really booming and they are hiring people left and right, that could be a very good sign that there's a good chance you get the job. If it's typically not have a lot of growth, or there's not a lot of turnover, maybe not quite as good of a chance for you to be employed or your client to be employed, but you also get a feel for whether or not there is a lot of turnover. If you have a kind of a stable organization and people, once they get employed there, don't want to leave and stay there forever, then you know and can get a fairly good sense that it's probably a good person to work for. Could try to do a little investigation of the potential of the organization, the future prospects of an organization. Tends to help a job seeker kind of make decisions, maybe when it comes down to deciding on different places in which to work. Organization that might have a little bit better future potential and potential for growth and potential for moving up in the organization might be a little bit better in terms of really deciding, making that final decision. It's helpful to know a little bit of the structure of the organization, the employer for which the person might work, just to get a sense of who is who and who does what, who might be a potential supervisor or a boss. You want to encourage your clients to know the locations and sites of any offices related to the employer, satellite locations, anything like that. It's helpful to have information at your disposal. And they might want to research some basic philosophies or policies of an organization, and this could be a little bit more I guess for lack of a better word, kind of investigating the culture of an organization to know if it might be a good fit. Some of the places to find all this information, depending on the size and the age of the organization or the employer, you might be able to find some stuff in a library, professional publications, any types of career resource centers. Obviously, the internet would be a primary search tool in finding out some things, but you also might want to encourage them to just do some asking around and get some information via word of mouth. In terms of knowing the job market, don't know that I have too much to say other than to kind of point you in the direction of the Bureau of Labor Statistics and all the resources that are affiliated with this. The U.S. Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics. A lot of information online related to Occupational Outlook Handbook, as well as the ONET and all the other various resources on their website. But the ONET or the OOH, both of those resources can provide fairly valid and reliable data related to the job market. You might also, if you're wanting to really find more local information, you can find I think some state information on this particular website, but you can always do a little more research related to the Employment Security Commission in a local area. Now, in terms of running the campaign, obviously you want to have your client, sorry for the kind of stuttering here, I'm scrolling back and forth between some slides kind of behind the scenes here. You want your client to really know how to find out information about where they can be employed. What types of strategies would they use to try and find where the jobs are? Not always going to kind of happen upon this help wanted sign in a window much these days. You might see those types of things posted in a fast food restaurant or something like that, a retail store. But if we kind of personalize this for ourselves, it's not likely that you find that kind of thing in a counseling position. You have to know how to do a little bit of the research and the search to find where the jobs are. Now, you can assume that jobs will be advertised and they will be visible, and that might be through internet research or postings on various boards related to a profession. But more times than not, instead of it being a visible or advertised position, it's going to be hidden. a hidden job market really is really the best term for it. Hidden job market, where the advertisements are not overtly posted. You only know about it if you know somebody or somebody knows you. So you want to really encourage your clients to kind of delve into and become experienced in tapping into the hidden job market. And I've got some ideas. These are in the text as well, I believe, about how to tap into the hidden job market. Number one, first and foremost, is for your client to develop a network of contacts, people that they come across, meet, could consider them a friend, could consider them just an acquaintance, or somebody they met in an elevator. But it's just this network of individuals that can be of some type of assistance in employment. So the network, it really does come down to, it's all about who you know and who knows you. And there's ways to build up networks, and if you look at technology, LinkedIn is probably the most publicly available and probably the most popular way to establish a given network of contacts. And I think I've heard more instances personally of people really utilizing something like LinkedIn to develop this network and actually obtain job opportunities through it. Recruiters, for example, are now embracing LinkedIn perhaps more than they ever have, simply because it gives them some of the same information that they might have had to have paid for or worked for to obtain in the past. They're able to go into LinkedIn and, through typing in some specific search terms, might kind of develop a pool of potential applicants that they might decide to refer to an employer. So LinkedIn is a good way to develop a network, and I would encourage you to really familiarize yourself with it for yourself, for your own personal benefit in your future employment. But it's also something to help clients figure out as well. Another way to develop a network is you might make contacts through alumni related to a school you've been to or a program you've been through. And I think the best example is your cohort in which you're in school with right now, people that you're in classes with. They might very well turn out to be your most valuable network of contacts. You never know that the person sitting next to you in a classroom or listed next to your name on the class list for an online class, that might be a person who might hire you in 5 years or 10 years down the road. So it is important and valuable that you establish a network while you're in school. There are universities, colleges that work very hard to establish an alumni network for this very purpose of helping the future students that have come along have employment opportunities, solid employment opportunities. Other things to keep in mind: mentors, kind of official or unofficial mentors tend to help people learn about hidden jobs that might be there. There might be newspaper articles, not advertisements, not job advertisements, but articles, kind of reading between the lines about what might be going on with various companies, seeing growth in an area. If you know that a business is coming to town, they're building a brand new building, they're going to be hiring people. So that would be kind of important to keep as a source of career information for a client, to be able to point people in specific directions. It could simply kind of do cold calls to organizations and contacts, and certainly a telephone book, if you can track down a telephone book these days, can certainly kind of go through that. But there's also temporary agencies might know of jobs that are available in companies that are hiring. You might just seek out people that you know to see if they have some recommendations of excuse me, of places that they know are hiring. You might get involved with a professional recruiter, a recruitment firm that might know of these advertisements and openings. There are some of the larger companies that do not advertise. They'll go through their recruitment agencies to help find the person that will be just the perfect fit for a job. So they don't have like an open advertisement. They will go out and kind of farm applicants for a company. Internships are a great way to find out when jobs will be available. I can't tell you how many times during the time that I've been at NCCU in which our counseling interns have ended up being hired by their internship site. And these are positions that may or may not have been advertised, but because they had interned at an organization felt inclined to hire them. Even if they might have had to advertise it, they might have brought people in for interview, excuse me, but informally they had, for the most part, already made up their minds about who they wanted to hire simply because that intern was a known quantity. You might encourage clients to do some job shadowing or some informational interviewing. That's a way of finding out some of this information that they might do an interview with somebody, this informational interview, and the person they interview would know that there's no job advertised, but 6 months down the road, such and such person is going to be leaving their position for one reason or another, or this person's retiring. So they'll know and be able to tell you that information of this future opening, the possibility. Professional and trade journals, publications, that type of thing might be the route in which lots of places will hire. Rather than post a want ad or post something online, they will tend to go to the professional journal or the trade journal publication in order to advertise, simply because that's the way it's done in that field. Might also encourage clients to do some research on the internet related to the actual websites of a company or an industry or profession. Professional organizations, you'll oftentimes find notification of openings at those locations or those specific sites. Some companies will only advertise, maybe on their own website, or just on the professional organization's website. That they want to kind of target who they want to apply. Business directories, things published related to specific fields or professions would be a good way to kind of get a list of places in which somebody could make some calls or contacts related to openings. But the major motto here for your client is for them to leave no stone unturned. They have to really look through everything, be very thorough and methodical about it. In some of these slides, in previous iterations of this class, I've gone through some detail about resumes and the resume styles and things like that, but I think starting last year, I have that lecture presentation specifically devoted to resumes, so I'm going to just skip over that part for the sake of this lecture here, and just jump right into interviewing. And I don't have too much to say about this, but I do want to give some major pointers for yourself and for you to pass along to future clients. in terms of interviewing, uh, being prepared is probably one of the greatest ways to use your time prior to the interview, is to not just kind of go in there nice and relaxed, not having done your homework. You want to be prepared. You want to do all this research related to the company. You want to make sure that your resume is top notch and then there's just absolutely no mistakes with it. You want to make sure that you've gone and taken the time to get your hair trimmed, your nails clipped, your suit cleaned, going just the whole 9 yards to make sure that when you walk in for an interview, or when your client walks in for an interview, that there will be no regrets in terms of not having done this or not having done that. It may not always work out for the best, but you will at least have given it your best shot, and your client will have given it their best shot. So that there really won't be any kind of second guessing about whether or not you could have done a little bit more. Speaking of dress, proper attire is vital for an interview. I realize that, kind of recording this type of thing, and I record it at one point and may use it for the next year or two, that I could be kind of dating this information, but just today I went and visited an internship site, and this person that I sat down to talk with said that one of our students, one of the NCCU counseling students, had come and interviewed for a position with them at some point, and the person showed up in what this individual called, and I'm quoting this person, they said, inappropriate clothing, not appropriate for a job interview. And I cannot begin to express how embarrassed I was as a faculty member for the department, and how we tend to kind of go over this information in internship. I just had to express my apologies to them, and I probably did it 2 or 3 times, just talking to them about what we try to do for our students, and the efforts that we go to. So I can't stress enough, and this will be a concept you want to pass along to your clients as well, that you have to dress up for a job interview, and it may not be the most economical thing to do, and it may not be something that you feel like is vital. You want to express your individualism, your identity through your clothing. You want to dress and behave a certain way. And what I say to you is, I understand all of that. I understand that desire, that need. But those are the types of things that you can certainly do that after you get the job. When it comes to the interview, you want to dress conservatively. You want to dress in a dark suit. You want to dress very professionally. You want to make sure that the clothes that you're wearing fit well. If it means getting them altered so that they fit well, get them altered by all means. Make sure that it's been ironed and pressed before you show up. If it needs to be dry cleaned, get it dry cleaned. Spend the extra money up front. It can only be helpful. And there's other resources related to attire. And I guess I won't go into great detail here, but we post a lot of this stuff on our departmental website under the students page, that you're welcome to go and take a look at our dress code for the department. Also, with interviewing, make sure that you pass this along to your clients, that you arrive early. If you show up on time, like if your appointment is at 12 and you show up at 12, you are late. You need to be early. You need to be ready early. Might mean leaving earlier than you would want, or leaving earlier than you really have time for, but it will make an impression for the interview. You don't want to show up just on time. You definitely don't want to show up late, but you want to be there early. It's encouraged that you show enthusiasm during the interview. You're able to express yourself, your humor, your enthusiasm for having this position, but you also want to be relaxed. And I know this may be a little bit of a kind of a mixed message here, but you don't want to appear overly nervous. And it is good to have some practice in answering questions and asking questions of your interviewer as well. You want to be a good listener, provide more than just yes or no answers to questions. You want to go into a little bit of depth. You don't want to go on and on and on about something, but you do want to give them some information. You should be honest, concise, be frank. I would encourage you, though, this is a little bit of a side note, that you don't want to preface anything you say with, "I'll be honest with you," or "I'll be frank with you." It's tends to be a little bit of a red flag during an interview if somebody responding to a question says, "Let me be honest with you," because what you are saying, essentially, everything else I've said is not honest. So even though it is just kind of an expression, it can make a difference. So it's these very small things, the details, that you want to be focused on and make sure that you are at your very best. So participating in some mock interviewing tends to help people. And if you end up doing career counseling, then you would want to help your client engage in a little bit of a mock interview, so you could practice being the interviewer and let them be the interviewee, where you would behave like the interviewer and just run them through a few different scenarios just to kind of calm their nerves and to be able to give them feedback on how they performed.